Welcome to the shared dream of humanity, to history's greatest and most invisible enchantment. On an ordinary day, let us chase the ancient question whispered through the ages. What is man's greatest invention? It is easy to get lost in the labyrinth of options. Would it be fire, which illuminated the darkness, offering us warmth, protection, and the ability to cook our meals in the heart of the wild? Or perhaps the wheel, which defied distances to drive the very beginnings of trade, commerce, and human travel? Undoubtedly, both were monumental sparks that made man the master of nature. Yet most of the time, while contemplating these great strides, we overlook the most abstract, the most mesmerizing creation born from the depths of the human mind: money. Fire and the wheel are tangible realities we can touch and feel. Money, however, is entirely immaterial. It is merely a collective dream, a sacred illusion whose value exists only as long as we believe in it. Yet this illusion does not in any way diminish its power or its mystical place in human history. Let us look closer at the birth of this great talisman and how it came to possess us. 1. The first exchange, the clash of souls and labor. Before money, humanity existed in a raw reality, the sweat of one living being directly confronted the labor of another. Today, we refer to this as the barter system. In this system, there was no abstract measure of value. Every transaction was a silent pact between the immediate desires and survival instincts of two individuals. It was like a game where the rules changed every second. If I only reared cattle and craved the fresh vegetables from your garden, I would have to sacrifice an entire animal for a single basket of vegetables. Or, if I were a tent maker seeking a pair of leather slippers for my feet, I would have to surrender an entire tent, the fruit of days of hard labor, just for a simple piece of footwear. And immediately, the asymmetry and inherent injustice of this system reared its head. A tent maker, exchanging a whole living space for simple slippers, could not help but feel a deep emptiness in his soul. Because there was no standardized medium of exchange, the miracle of two people needing the exact opposite thing at the exact same time, what we call the double coincidence of wants, was a rare, inefficient, and agonizing wait. Moreover, in this ancient order, it was impossible to withstand the destructive flow of time. Money is not just a medium of exchange. It is a store of value that freezes time. The tent maker could keep his creations intact all year long, preserving his wealth. But the tomato farmer was powerful only during the harvest season. His tomatoes were destined to rot. Thus, his labor dissolved in the merciless river of time. No matter how hard he worked, he could not carry his wealth into tomorrow. 2. Value imbued into the soul of objects, commodity money. Over time, humans discovered that certain objects were universally desired. Weapons, animal skins, salt. These were not just tools, they transformed into sacred keys of exchange. Even if they had no immediate use for them, people began accumulating these objects, knowing they were secret gateways that could open any door. From seashells and beads to salt crystals and sharp iron, humanity created placeholder objects upon which commerce would be built. These were, in fact, history's first IOU notes. I give you this shell, and you give me your labor. When the day comes that you hand this shell to someone else, they too will deliver what is due to you. This belief system was so powerful that the world slowly drifted away from the physical reality of barter toward this collective unity of faith. 3. The trial of metal by fire and the alchemy of kings. Yet for this faith to survive, there was one vital condition: scarcity. Seashells or grains of sand that anyone could easily gather from a beach could never carry this sacred magic. What is abundant loses its value. Recognizing this economic truth, humanity cast the first metal coins around 770 BC in the lands of China. Made of bronze, these coins were miniature replicas of the tools once used as currency, crafted with rounded edges so they could be pulled from pockets without hurting the fingers. At that moment, money assumed a physical body for the first time. Bronze was scarce, extracted from the depths of the earth with immense labor. Its value was locked within its own essence. In 600 BC, Alyattes, the king of Lydia, sealed this essence by establishing the world's first official mint. He struck coins from electrum, a sacred alliance of gold and silver, and stamped them with the symbols of the kingdom. Now, people believed not just in the metal, but in the authority represented by that seal. Yet power always craves more. When the rulers of the world realized the mesmerizing power of money, they resorted to their first alchemical deception. Real value, 1G gold. Royal mint, diluting with base metals. Illusion of value, 1G face value, 0.5G real gold. The amount of gold and silver in the coins was thinned out, replaced with cheap copper. The seal remained the same, but the essence vanished. Thus, the great illusion of money was born. The value of a coin was no longer determined by the nature of the metal. It was now a shadow value dictated by rulers and banks. 4 wings of paper, the empire of fiat. As international trade expanded, carrying heavy sacks of metal coins became impossible. To lighten this burden, kings printed the shadows of gold and silver onto paper IOU certificates. People trusted these papers because they were backed by the treasuries and promises of kings. In time, so much paper flooded the market that no one bothered to ask for the gold behind it. The paper itself took the place of the sacred. This is the religion of the modern world, fiat money. Derived from Latin, the word whispers a divine decree. Let it be done. Created out of nothing by the mere decree of governments, backed by neither gold nor silver, these papers stand solely on the power of the state. Consider the 10,000 Singapore dollar note, the most valuable banknote in circulation. This single piece of paper, costing less than 20 cents to produce, carries a power equivalent to 120 grams of pure gold, thanks to the enchanting grip of the system. Because the state has decreed, let it be done. 5. Modern rituals and the great inflation. The rulers of today, much like the kings of old, wish to wield this power infinitely. They run their invisible printing presses, summoning trillions of dollars out of thin air. But when this magic is performed without restraint, the balance of the universe is shattered. In modern tongue, we call this inflation. If the amount of money in the system exceeds the sum of real goods and services, which represent actual human life, the soul within each unit of currency fades. While prices climb to the heavens, the purchasing power of money silently melts away. In 2020, when a microscopic enemy shook the world to a standstill, the rulers performed the greatest monetary ritual in history to keep the system alive. 40% of all US dollars in existence today were printed within just an 18-month window. In contrast to this colossal flood of money, the actual value produced remained stagnant. The result was inevitable. Everything, from lumber to the price of salsa at Chipotle, grew silently but rapidly expensive. The stimulus checks provided by governments are a double-edged sword, taking away with one hand what they give with the other, quietly eroding the savings in our pockets. When people choose these unearned papers over labor, the gears of the system grind to a halt. Workers earning less than minimum wage abandon their posts, and the dominoes fall one by one. 6. The debt spiral and the lost war against time. The Federal Reserve of the United States is the lifebuoy of an empire swimming in a sea of debt. This debt, which surpassed $29 trillion before 2020, is actually a bill charged to the future. When you invest $1,000 in a 10-year government bond today, your promised return is a mere 1.23% annually. Yet inflation, even at its official target of 2%, eats away at your purchasing power year after year. By purchasing a government bond, you essentially agree to wake up poorer 10 years from now. When the time comes to settle its debts, the government buys back these papers from massive financial institutions. And what does it use to pay them? Naturally, fresh money created out of thin air with a single stroke on a computer keyboard. Every new cent printed steals from the soul of the old money sitting in your bank account. The numbers do not change. The balance on your screen remains the same, but the slice of life you can purchase with that balance shrinks day by day. Storing wealth in fiat currency is like trying to keep a block of ice under the blazing sun. 7. Awakening from the illusion, the mystery of financial freedom. Stock markets that endlessly rise, indices breaking record after record. All of these are but a mirage created by a slowly dying currency. If you measure the Dow Jones Index, the engine of the American economy, not in paper dollars, but in humanity's oldest anchor, gold, you will see that we have been standing in virtually the same place since 1997. The Dow Jones Index over the years. Denominated in USD, chart increasing, constant rise, the illusion. Denominated in gold, bar chart a flat line the reality. It is all smoke and mirrors. The only way to win this game is not to hoard the money itself, but to transform it into real assets that do not melt against time. Only then can we break the chains of this financial hypnosis. Where will this endless money-printing madness lead us? Will the chasm between the rich and the poor widen until it tears the sky apart? Or will humanity finally awaken from its greatest self-made illusion and take its destiny back into its own hands? Time is the sole witness to this grand secret. But remember, for those who choose to wake from the dream, there is always a way out.